Hello, our dear students. Welcome to a brand new semester. For this semester, we shall be implementing the Flex Learning version 2. It means that we will have the physical and face-to-face interaction. However, it will become limited because of the pandemic that we are still facing right now. We hope that everyone is safe and healthy. So, how does Flex Learning version 2 work? We will have the 2 days of face-to-face discussion, and then we will have 4 days of remote and independent learning. So what we mean by 2 days of face-to-face discussion is that we will have the usual setup in the classroom. In the other 4 days, you will be employing the remote coaching and independent learning. So that means that you are going to stay at home and learn independently by using our Flex Learning module, and aside from that, your teachers will be making use of the PowerPoint presentation and video discussions in order to aid you better in understanding the modules. So, are you ready? Before we begin, let us have a little discussion on what our topic is. So, this is STM 005 General Chemistry 1. We're going to tackle module number 1, which is about recognizing the particle nature of matter. These are our learning targets. So at the end of this module, the learners should be able to distinguish the properties of matter from those of non-matter. Let us have our lesson overview. So these are the things that we are going to tackle in this module. Number 1, definition of chemistry. Number 2, definition of matter. 3, differentiating between matter and non-matter. 4, particle theory of matter. Let us have the definition of terms, which is about defining chemistry and matter. So how do we define chemistry? Now in your junior high school days, so to collectively define this, it is a branch of science that deals with number 1, properties of matter. So when we say properties of matter, ito yung kung ano yung kanilang physical appearance, yung kung ano yung kanilang mga physical or chemical characteristics, and then kung ano yung phases sila nag-exist. Next, we have composition and structure of matter. So when we say composition, saan ba gawa yung matter na yon? Saan ba siya gawa? Ano yung mga kanyang components or kung saan siya composed? And then structure, meaning kung paano siya inayos, kung paano yung kanyang pagkakaayos in the atomic level or molecular level. Next, changes that matter undergoes. So ito yung kanilang physical or chemical changes. However, in chemistry, we will focus more on the chemical changes that these matters undergo. Next, the energy that accompanies these changes. Ano ba yung mga klaseng energy na kailangan mag-exist para magkaroon ng chemical energy? Or, ito yung kung saan nagkakaroon ng chemical reaction, tapos nagkakaroon ng production of energy in whatever form that is. It is either light, heat. So, yun yung typical na form of energy na napoproduce or kinakailangan para magkaroon ng chemical reaction. And then lastly, the laws and principles that govern the changes. So, ito yung mga iba-ibang laws which seeks to explain kung paano nagkakaroon ng ganong mga changes sa matter. So, that is our complete definition of chemistry. Napapansin ninyo, ano yung word na nauulit-ulit dito? So, it is matter. Paulit-ulit binanggit yung word na matter. So, these changes, ano ang nag-change? Yung matter. The changes, ano yung nag-change ulit? Yung matter. So, how do we define matter? At bakit meron tayong definition ng matter? So, does that mean na merong non-matter or hindi siya matter? So, when we say matter, it is anything that occupies space and has mass. In order for an object to be considered a matter, it must first have these 2 characteristics, which is it should occupy space and it should have mass. Given this definition, marami tayong maiisip ng mga bagay na nagfa-fall under matter, such as your ballpen that you're holding right now, yung module, yung inyong tablet or yung phone na ginagamit nyo ngayon para panoodin itong video lesson. even the chair that you are sitting on or the bed that you're lying down on. So itong mga to, example sila ng matter kasi they occupy space. So ibig sabihin, kapag sama-sama mo yung mga bagay na ito, there will come a time na mapupuno yung iyong space. And has mass. Meron siyang kaakibat na bigat. Kung ganun ang definition ng matter, ano naman ang definition ng non-matter? So when we say non-matter, so it is either it does not occupy space or has no mass. So, kapag non-matter, kapag wala siyang space na ino-occupy or kapag wala siyang mass or pwedeng both. Pareho siyang walang space tapos wala rin siyang mass. Ano ba itong mga bagay na to na walang space or walang mass or both walang space or walang mass? Kasi diba kapag sinabi nating matter, it should fit the two criteria which is dapat may space at may mass. So kapag nawalang isa or parehong nawala, that means it is considered as non-matter. So in this image, marami tayong makikita na iba-ibang example ng matter. Kagaya ng person, glasses, butterfly. So lahat sila naka-indicate na kung sila ay matter. So alin sa kanila ang non-matter? So they do not belong or cannot be classified as matter. So number 1, the heat coming from the sun or the heat coming from the PC. Kasi diba, lahat ng mga electrical appliances, lahat sila nag-emit ng heat, whether yun yung intended na purpose nila or not. Second, the light coming from the sun or from the screen of the PC. So ano pa ba? Number 3, we also have gravity. Bakit kaya yung gravity? Kasi kung walang gravity, edi sana palutang-lutang na sila. 4, air. Kasi kapag walang air, mamamatay yung pusa, tapos yung tao, diba? 5th one, kapag yung pusa ay nagmeow or yung PC ay tumutunog or nagpapatugtog yung person, sound. So these are only few of the non-matter that can be seen or that can be observed or that can be rationalized in this image. Number 1, heat. Bakit kaya hindi matter yung heat? Kasi these are the substances that either do not have mass or does not occupy space. So, kung hindi sila classified as matter, ano sila specifically, hindi lang yung non-matter. So, they could either be a form of force or energy. The heat is not a matter, it is a form of energy. Diba meron tayong iba-ibang uri ng energy or iba-ibang forms na kung saan nag-exist ang energy. May electrical, mechanical, kasama doon ng heat, as well as the light. Light is also a form of energy. What about gravity? So gravity, gravitational force, it is a form of force. So those are examples of matter and non-matter in our surrounding. So try mo kayang tumingin sa paligid mo. Can you think of other non-matter that exists in your surrounding? Now let us have this activity. Check your module for the skill building activity as our practice. So identify whether each item is matter or not. Put a check to categorize each sample. Now, in your module, nakalagay doon, it is either matter, non-matter, or not sure. So, maglalagay ka ng check kung saan siya nagbe-belong. So, for example, yung light. In this case, I am going to write M for matter and M for non-matter. Okay, so in this discussion, ito ang gagamitin natin. But of course, in your module, we are going to follow the instruction. So number 1 is light. Is it matter or non-matter? So this is not matter, so NM. What about water? This is a form of matter. Next, steam is a form of matter. Bakit kaya? Kasi when we say steam, these are vaporized water particles or liquid particles in general. Next, energy. This is non-matter. And then, dust, this is matter. So these are the numbers 1 to 5 in your activity number 1 under skill building activities. Check your module to answer the rest of the activity. And then, try to check your own work by looking up at the answer keys that can be found at the end of the module. I hope you are doing well and I hope that you are understanding our topic. Now we go to particulate theory of matter. And we are going to discuss the different postulates or kung ano yung gustong i-explain itong particulate theory of matter. So, ito yung ating particle theory or the particulate theory. Sinasabi niya na, number 1, all matter is made up of particles. And we know for a fact that the particles that are being described in this is called the atom. So, sinasabi niya na kapag ang isang bagay ay matter, then of course, it is composed of these tiny particles called atoms. Number 2, all particles of one substance are identical. So, sinasabi niya na kapag ang isang bagay, for example, gold, lahat ng mga particles na kung saan gawa yung gold na yun ay pare-pareho ang kanilang properties. Now, of course, this is only a theory. So, this is open for disprovement or i-disprove natin. So, for now, we are going to take into consideration this theory, but we are going to disprove some of them in the future discussions. So, sinasabi ni number 2 na kapag ang isang bagay ay gawa sa, for example, let us have the gold. Kapag yung gold bar, titignan mo yung isang particle nun, lahat ng particle ng gold bar ay magkakapareho. So, that is number 2. So, number 3, the particles are in constant motion. So, ibig sabihin, yung particles daw ay dire-diretso nagkakaroon ng movement. Whether it's solid, liquid, or gas, lahat daw ng mga particles sa mga yun ay gumagalaw. Yun nga lang kasi, number 4, the temperature affects the speed at which the particle moves. So, ibig sabihin, nakadepende sa temperature. Bakit kaya? Kapag ang isang atom or kapag ang isang particle ay mataas ang kanyang temperature, mas mataas ang kanyang energy. And because of this increased energy, mas kailangan niyang mag-move in order to release that energy. Diba? Kaya kapag mas mataas ang temperature, mas mabilis yung kanyang movement. In turn, kapag mababa ang temperature, since wala ang nag-excite sa kanya, hindi siya nagkakaroon ng excitation, dahil mababang temperature, walang nagbibigay ng additional energy sa kanya, mas mabagal yung kanyang movement. So that is number 4. Number 5, particles have forces of attraction between them. So these forces of attraction, it could be either intramolecular or intermolecular, which we are going to discuss further as we go along our topics in chemistry. So, when we say intra, ito yung ionic, covalent, and such. To give you some example, kung sakaling familiar pa kayo sa kanila. And when we say intermolecular, this is between molecules or between particles. So, this is much weaker as compared to intramolecular. So, intermolecular, examples niyan ay dipole-dipole, London dispersion force, and such. Kung sakaling familiar kayo sa kanila. So, nagkakaroon ng attraction between these particles in order for them to have a bigger structure. Next, there are spaces between the particles. Since these particles are moving, it is inevitable that they will have spaces between them. Kahit na solid man yan, na halos hindi mo ma-compress, may it be liquid or gas particles. So that's the particle theory. Number 1, na lahat ng mga bagay sa universe, basta sila ay may mass, sila ay may density, and that they are classified as matter, they will be composed of atoms. Number 2, lahat daw ng mga particles ng isang substance pare-pareho. Number 3, lahat daw ng mga particles nito ay patuloy na gumagalaw, so they are constantly moving. 4, the temperature affects the speed at which the particles move. Kapag mataas ang temperature, mas mabilis ang kanilang movement. Mas mababang temperature, mas mababa ang kanilang movement. 5, merong forces of attraction between the particles. It could either be intramolecular or between atoms or between molecules sa kung saan mas malakas ang kanilang attraction. Example nito, if you're still familiar, are ionic and covalent bonding. Or it could be a weaker type of force which is called intermolecular forces. And then we have there are spaces between the particles. Okay? So thank you for listening for our discussion in module number 1. You can now go back to answering your module. For queries, do not hesitate to ask. We're always here to guide you so long as you're going to drop your message during work days at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I hope that you had fun listening to our discussion.